Bum 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 bum.
Tomatoes?
Hello, welcome to video 4. How do I use BSP Brushes, the geometry editing pen tool? Let's jump quickly into this. Now our pen tool is going to be different than our normal geometry editing tools. Our normal geometry editing tools, let's say we dragged in a box for a geometry. We went to geometry editing. They work on existing BSP brushes. The pen tool is what we want to use if we want to create a new one that's not one of our standard brush types. So let's go ahead and delete this and we'll get right into it. You can access it under your geometry editing pen tool. Now you may be wondering, well, nothing's happening. The pen tool has to work in a orthographic view mode. It cannot work in perspective. And I find it easiest to work in top because that's just easiest for me. The pen is really simple. By default, it's basically going to create whatever you draw down on the z-axis 256 units. That's just the default. Auto extrude basically means create this brush with a depth, and this is the depth it's going to create it at. So let's see how it works in, for example. Let's create maybe something like a little staircase. You can click anywhere in your scene, nothing's going to happen. What you need to do is you need to use your space and your enter key. So let's move it to here and hit space. We'll drop our first pin. We can now move it to another place and hit space. It'll drop another pin. Once you create your third pin, we'll go here. It's going to give you a dotted line. What that dotted line means is if you were to drop the pen tool right now, you hit enter or apply, it's going to close it by going back to the origin, and that's what it's going to look like. But that's not what we want. We'll go ahead and go and create some more stairs here. You can use the right mouse button to hold the right mouse button to pan, and you can zoom in and out as well. As long as you don't really do anything with the spacebar, you're fine. We'll go here, drop it. Now let's go back to here. Drop, drop. Let's go over to here. Drop, drop. Now if we were to hit enter, it would close, or you can go back to your original point and hit space and it'll drop it again. Now what you're going to find happen is it automatically tries to create, by default, an optimized triangle convex polygon. If we go into our perspective view and we zoom in, you'll now find what we just created here. We created this little boxy sideways staircase type thing. If we were to click on this and click optimize, you'll find it optimizes it much better than by default. We get a nice cube out of that instead of our triangulated funky mess there. Let's see the bottom. Oops. Click on that. Optimize. There we go. Probably be easier if I just clicked on that. Select brush. Optimize. There we go. We optimize everything all at once. So now we have, so that's something to keep in mind. If you're using the pen brush, try to optimize afterwards. You'll get a much better result. So we made this, and that's honestly all the pen tool is for. It's used for creating your own brush shapes. Now, when I say brush shape, there is another option here called brush shape. Ignore that. Ignore me saying brush shapes. It allows you to shape your own brush to create your own box brush. This is separate. This is for the lathe tool, and it's covered in a different video. So in terms of our other options, let's say we go back to our perspective top, and let's say we uncheck auto extrude. Let's go ahead and create another item, very similar to what we created before. This time we're going to go ahead and we'll choose the auto close option. Now you notice here, I'm not going to reconnect. I'll hit enter. It's going to create our shape for us automatically. We go into perspective, and you'll notice a slight difference. We have no actual depth. Because we didn't tell it to extrude or distance, it's just simply going to make a single polygon based on what we drew. Of course, we can go in and optimize if needed, but something like this you really can't optimize. We don't have any items here to connect to. If you wanted to make this bigger, you could go ahead and extrude it by hand. For example, if we selected the faces, we could extrude all these out. But by default, unless you're doing something maybe like a decoration or a fill, you're going to want to keep auto extrude on. Now, technically, you could do something like go into your side view and then go to your pen tool, and then you could do something like this, and you'd end up with, you know, an edge, but then the edge is going to be right over here, and technically it's not connected to anything, and you don't even have a texture assigned to it. So, I mean, it's best to extrude, and then you can go from there to do things. In terms of the other options, we have create convex polygon. Let's say we were to delete this, and we have this one right here. Let's create two different examples here with two different polygons. We will create auto extrude on and create convex polygon on, and we'll go ahead and we will, oops, okay, recheck that, and we'll make ourselves a little shape here like this. Let's go like that, and we'll close that. And we have this. Now if we uncheck create convex polygon, and we go ahead and recreate this, we'll go from here, 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 here. I'm doing my best to copy this. There we go, like that, and then we went to there, and then what do we do? Is that over one? Like that? Yeah, like that, right? And we close that. You're going to see a difference in terms of what was actually created. You have this one and you have this one. And you'll notice they have different internals. When you don't use the convex polygon, basically it's going to try to triangulate the entire thing based on one of your closing points. So if I closed it here, for example, it would try to triangulate it there. I closed it here, so it triangulated basically everything. Here to here, makes a triangle, triangle all the way around. Of course, if we were to select this polygon and do optimize, you'll find it becomes much similar to what we originally created. So I'd recommend creating convex polygons on unless you plan on doing a lot of manipulation and you're going to go ahead and want the edges and vertices that you can work with later. Create brush shapes, like I mentioned, only works with lathe. Don't worry about it unless you're lathing, and that's covered in a separate video. And extrude depth is, again, it is the depth at which it's extruded from our creation point to our extrusion point. That's 256. That's it. That is what our pen tool is for. It's useful for creating your own design and your own shaped brushes. Remember to optimize after you've created to get the best result. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them below.